This is going to be the first time driving a Bugatti Veyron, and it looks like this. Didn't imagine it to look like this, but at this point we don't know what happens. So let's get in and let's drive it.
When people think about Bugatti, they think about perfection. They think about cars built without compromise, machines designed by some of the best engineers in the world, and prices so high that most people only ever see them in videos online. A Bugatti Veyron is not just a car. It is a symbol of extreme engineering, speed, and luxury. For years, Bugatti built a reputation that made owners trust every decision the company made. If something broke, many people believed the only answer was to let Bugatti fix it. But recently, automotive creator Mat Armstrong found himself facing a situation that challenged that idea completely. After buying a repossessed Bugatti Veyron with major problems, he entered a repair journey that quickly became one of the most talked-about stories in the automotive world. The Veyron had a serious gearbox problem. The car would not properly select gears. Drive did not work correctly. Reverse did not work correctly. A repair estimate connected to problems like this could reach shocking numbers, sometimes hundreds of thousands of pounds. For most people, hearing those numbers would end the story immediately. They would accept defeat. But Mat decided to investigate the issue himself. Instead of immediately believing the worst-case scenario, he started looking deeper. That decision changed everything. What began as a broken hypercar slowly turned into an investigation that raised major questions about expensive repairs, hidden mechanical problems, and whether complex machines sometimes fail because of surprisingly small parts. The story became bigger than a broken gearbox. It became a story about problem-solving, persistence, and challenging assumptions that people rarely question. And when the first discoveries appeared, almost nobody expected what would happen next. The first step in solving any difficult mechanical problem is understanding what is actually wrong. Expensive cars often create fear because owners assume every issue must involve expensive repairs. Hypercars make that fear even bigger. The Bugatti Veyron is famous for engineering that pushes limits. Its powerful engine, advanced systems, and unique design make it one of the most complex production cars ever built. Because of that reputation, many people automatically expect huge repair bills whenever something goes wrong. Mat Armstrong could have accepted that thinking and prepared for the worst. Instead, he approached the situation differently. He focused on diagnosis before conclusions. The gearbox problem looked serious from the beginning. The car refused to shift properly. Important driving functions were not behaving normally. For many owners, that situation alone would feel overwhelming. But mechanical systems often leave clues behind, and Mat began searching for those clues one step at a time. During inspection, attention moved toward the hydraulic gearbox system. That system plays an important role in helping the transmission operate correctly while checking components connected to that area. Something unusual appeared. A fuse inside the circuit showed serious heat damage. It was not simply blown in a normal way. It had melted. That immediately suggested another possibility. Electrical protection systems exist for a reason. Fuses are designed to stop dangerous current levels from damaging important parts. If incorrect electrical protection is used, problems can grow larger over time. Investigations showed that a higher-rated fuse had been installed where a lower-rated fuse belonged. Instead of protecting the system properly, excess heat had been allowed to build. Mat replaced it with the correct fuse rating and continued testing. Suddenly, something changed. The gearbox pump started behaving differently. Pressure built correctly. Gear selections responded normally. Neutral worked. Reverse worked. Drive worked. A problem that looked massive only hours earlier suddenly appeared connected to a very small component. But experienced mechanics understand something important. Small failures often point toward bigger hidden causes. The fuse explained part of the mystery. It did not explain everything. And that realization pushed the investigation into an even deeper direction as the gearbox started working again. It would have been easy to celebrate and assume the problem was completely solved. Many people might have stopped there. The car moved. The transmission responded correctly. Important systems suddenly behaved normally again. After dealing with a problem that looked like it could cost hundreds of thousands to repair, finding progress from such a small fix felt almost unbelievable. But mechanical problems rarely tell the full story immediately. Mat Armstrong understood that fixing a symptom is not always the same as fixing the real cause. Something had damaged that fuse badly enough to melt it. Electrical parts do not normally fail without a reason. If the real cause stayed hidden, the same failure could happen again later. That thinking pushed the investigation further. To understand what was happening, deeper access to important components became necessary. Body panels came off. More parts became visible. Areas that owners rarely see suddenly became part of the search. Then another major clue appeared. Wiring connected to the gearbox pump showed serious damage. Heat had affected the protective covering around important wires. Parts of the insulation had become hard and brittle. In some places, cracking exposed copper underneath. This was no longer just a small electrical issue. Something had clearly been creating excessive heat over time. The next question became simple but important. Why was it happening? As investigation continued, attention moved toward the gearbox pump itself. What happened next surprised many automotive viewers. Following the story, the hydraulic pump connected to the system reportedly shared connections with technology used in another vehicle application. That discovery created discussion because it suggested a component could be working under demands very different from its original purpose. The pump inside the gearbox system operates often. Pressure changes during driving create repeated activity. Opening the door can trigger operation. Gear changes create additional work. Over time, repeated use places stress on components. If we're built slowly, hidden problems can eventually appear without warning. Suddenly, the melted fuse made more sense. The damaged wiring made more sense. But another possibility also entered the picture. Maybe the expensive gearbox itself was not the true problem. Maybe a supporting component created failures that made a much larger repair appear necessary. And if that idea proved true, the story was about to become even more interesting as more information appeared. The situation surrounding the Bugatti Veyron started becoming larger than a simple repair story. It slowly turned into an investigation about how people think about expensive cars and expensive repairs. Luxury automotive brands build machines that represent engineering at the highest level. Owners trust that every component exists for a reason. They believe advanced technology automatically means every repair requires advanced solutions. But complex systems do not always fail in complex ways. Sometimes very small problems create symptoms that look much bigger than reality. That possibility now stood directly in front of Mat Armstrong. The gearbox itself had looked like the center of the problem from the beginning. The car struggled to operate correctly. Gear selection issues created fear that major internal damage existed. But after finding electrical problems and signs of overheating, another possibility appeared. Maybe supporting systems created failures that looked like gearbox destruction without actually damaging the gearbox internally. That difference matters because replacing major assemblies inside ultra-expensive cars can cost enormous amounts of money. Owners facing those repair numbers often feel trapped. They trust specialists because the vehicles themselves feel beyond normal understanding. But diagnosis remains important no matter how expensive a machine becomes. During testing, another challenge appeared. The engine developed misfire problems during cold starts. Now attention shifted away from the transmission toward another complicated system. The Veyron's engine represents one of automotive history's most impressive engineering achievements. 16 cylinders work together to create extraordinary performance. With complexity comes more possible failure points. Spark systems, sensors, ignition components, and electrical modules all work together constantly. When one part behaves incorrectly, performance problems can appear quickly. Matt approached this challenge using a process mechanics understand well. Instead of replacing large numbers of expensive parts immediately, he isolated variables step by step. Components moved from one location to another. Diagnostic information was checked carefully. Patterns were observed. Changes were monitored. During testing, something unusual happened. The misfire problem disappeared without a completely clear explanation. Sometimes automotive repair works that way. Problems hide. Conditions change. Temporary improvements create new questions instead of final answers. Uncertainty remained. The gearbox concern still existed. The engine issue remained confusing. Yet despite unanswered questions, one moment approached that mattered more than anything else. It was finally time to drive the Bugatti Veyron and discover whether the repairs would survive real-world conditions. The first drive of any repaired vehicle creates pressure, but testing a Bugatti Veyron after major mechanical concerns creates a completely different level of tension. This was the moment where theory stopped matching and reality took over. Diagnostic tool inspections and workshop testing could only reveal so much. The true answer would appear once the car actually moved under its own power. For Mat Armstrong, that moment carried weeks of work, investigation, and uncertainty behind it. The gearbox had shown signs of life after electrical repairs. The engine misfire seemed to improve. Systems that once appeared completely broken suddenly looked functional again. But expensive performance cars can create false confidence. Problems sometimes disappear briefly before returning when real stress arrives. That possibility remained in everyone's mind. The engine started. Important systems came alive. Gear selection responded correctly. Reverse engaged normally. The Bugatti rolled backwards smoothly, without hesitation. Early signs looked positive. Then came forward movement. The car continued operating correctly. Gear changes happened as expected. Acceleration felt normal. Braking behavior stayed controlled. The early drive showed something extremely important. The core mechanical systems inside the vehicle appeared capable of functioning properly. For automotive viewers following the story, that result created excitement because it challenged earlier assumptions surrounding the repair situation. A vehicle once connected with massive repair concerns now moved successfully after careful investigation and relatively small corrective actions. But automotive stories rarely move in straight lines. Just when confidence started building, another problem appeared. After parking the Veyron and restarting systems later, something unusual happened inside the hydraulic operation connected to the gearbox system. The pump continued running when it should have stopped. Pressure numbers climbed beyond expected operating behavior. Instead of shutting down normally after building pressure, the system continued operating longer than expected. Suddenly, the damaged fuse from earlier started making more sense. Constant operation creates heat. Heat creates stress. Electrical stress creates failures. The investigation returned directly to the hydraulic pump area again. Whatever issue existed had not fully disappeared. It had simply revealed another layer. That discovery changed everything, because it suggested the original gearbox concerns might still connect back to smaller supporting components rather than catastrophic gearbox failure itself. The investigation continued moving toward one major conclusion. Finding root causes matters far more than replacing expensive parts. Without understanding why failure happened in the first place, the investigation continued. The Bugatti Veyron story slowly shifted away from one broken component and toward a much bigger lesson about automotive repair itself. Modern high-performance vehicles contain thousands of parts working together at incredible speed and precision. When something goes wrong, especially in ultra-expensive cars, people often assume the solution must also be expensive. Fear becomes part of ownership. Owners hear large repair estimates and immediately believe the worst possible outcome. But experienced mechanics understand something important. The first diagnosis is not always the final truth. Finding the actual cause requires patience, testing, and a willingness to question assumptions. Mat Armstrong continued approaching the Veyron with that mindset. Instead of focusing only on replacing major systems, attention remained fixed on understanding why failures happened. The hydraulic pump behavior remained suspicious. The pump sometimes operated correctly and then suddenly acted differently. Pressure levels moved beyond expected ranges. Electrical problems connected with overheating still pointed toward deeper issues that needed proper answers. Several possibilities existed. A relay could behave incorrectly. A pressure sensor could send bad information, where inside supporting components could create unusual operation patterns over time. Finding the exact answer required more work. But one major conclusion already looked increasingly clear. The gearbox itself showed signs that it could operate normally. That changed the direction of the story dramatically. Instead of assuming total gearbox destruction, evidence now pointed toward surrounding systems, creating symptoms that made the situation appear much worse than reality. Matt decided to remove as many unknown factors as possible. A full service process began. Fluids changed. Filters came out for inspection. Spark plugs were removed and checked carefully. Components across important systems received attention. Maintenance matters even more inside extremely advanced machines because small problems can slowly grow larger over time. Inspection also revealed something that created discussion throughout the automotive community. Various components carried markings connected with well-known automotive suppliers rather than completely exclusive manufacturing. That discovery surprised some viewers who expected every single part inside a hypercar to be unique. But automotive production often works differently. Manufacturers sometimes use proven suppliers and proven technologies across multiple applications. The difference usually comes through integration, engineering design, testing, and performance targets rather than creating every part from zero. Still, the discoveries raise questions about repair costs, maintenance pricing, and whether independent repair work deserves greater attention inside the world of high-end performance vehicles. The Bugatti story no longer focused only on one repair. It became a conversation about how people think about modern automotive engineering itself as more work continued on the Bugatti Veyron. The story started becoming bigger than one creator fixing one expensive car. It slowly turned into something that people across the automotive world could understand. Many car owners have experienced situations where repair costs feel impossible. A warning light appears. A strange sound starts. A mechanic delivers a large estimate. Suddenly, people feel trapped between paying huge money or giving up completely. The difference with the Veyron story was scale. Most people do not own hypercars, but they understand frustration, uncertainty, and expensive repairs. That emotional connection helped the story spread so quickly. Viewers were not only watching a luxury car repair, they were watching persistence against a problem that seemed impossible at first. Every new discovery created another reason to keep watching. Every challenge made the final goal feel more important. Mat Armstrong's process showed something valuable that applies far beyond one Bugatti. Good diagnosis matters more than assumptions. Replacing expensive parts without fully understanding the problem can sometimes waste time and money. Careful testing creates better answers. Patience creates better answers. Looking deeper creates better answers. Throughout the Veyron project, problems rarely followed a straight path. A melted fuse pointed toward bigger electrical concerns. Gearbox symptoms connected back toward supporting systems. Misfire issues created new uncertainty. Hydraulic behavior revealed hidden complications. Each answer created another question. That process reflects reality inside automotive repair. Complex machines often fail through chains of smaller problems rather than one dramatic failure. Small weaknesses build over time. Heat creates damage, where creates stress. Hidden issues slowly grow until they finally become impossible to ignore. Another important lesson involved modern automotive technology itself. High-end vehicles continue becoming more advanced every year. Electronics now control major systems that older cars handle mechanically. Sensors communicate constantly. Modules exchange information continuously. Performance depends on software, electrical systems, hydraulic operation, and mechanical components working together perfectly. When one area behaves incorrectly, symptoms can appear somewhere completely different. That complexity creates challenges, but also opportunities for people willing to investigate carefully. The Bugatti project showed viewers something powerful. Expensive machines may look impossible to understand from the outside, but solving difficult problems often begins with simple questions. What changed? What failed? What evidence exists? Those questions move the story forward step by step. And by the time the project moved closer toward completion, one thing had become clear. The biggest discovery was not only about fixing a hypercar. It was about challenging assumptions people accept without asking enough questions to be why the end of the Bugatti Veyron project. What started as a repair story had transformed into something much bigger. It became a story about determination, patience, and refusing to accept the first answer without investigation. When Mat Armstrong first bought the repossessed Veyron, the situation looked overwhelming. The gearbox appeared broken. Major systems showed problems. Expensive repair possibilities created pressure from the very beginning. Many people watching expected the project to become another example of why hypercars remain impossible for normal owners to understand or maintain. Instead, the journey moved in a completely different direction. Small discoveries slowly changed the picture. A damaged fuse opened the door toward deeper investigation. Wiring damage revealed hidden stress inside important supporting systems. Testing and diagnosis uncovered information that could not be found by immediately replacing major components. Problems that originally looked catastrophic slowly became more understandable. That process highlighted one of the biggest lessons inside engineering and repair work. The most expensive solution is not automatically the correct solution. Understanding failure matters more than reacting to failure. Careful thinking matters. Patience matters. Investigation matters. The project also showed why audiences enjoy automotive stories built around real challenges rather than simple success. Viewers stayed interested because uncertainty remained part of the journey. Every breakthrough introduced another obstacle. Every answer uncovered another mystery. The gearbox worked, but new hydraulic concerns appeared. Engine behavior improved, but questions remained. Progress never arrived in a perfect straight line. That unpredictability kept people invested from beginning to end. Beyond mechanical discoveries, the project also started larger conversations throughout automotive communities about repair culture itself. Independent investigation gained attention. Diagnostic processes gained attention. People started discussing whether owners should sometimes explore deeper understanding before immediately accepting massive repair estimates. None of that changes one important reality. Vehicles like the Bugatti Veyron remain extraordinary machines built at an incredible level of engineering complexity. But complexity does not remove the value of careful thinking. In many ways, this project reminded people that solving difficult problems often starts with basic principles. Observe carefully, test patiently, question assumptions, follow evidence. Whether someone owns a hypercar, a family vehicle, or simply enjoys automotive stories online, those lessons remain valuable. The Veyron journey delivered drama, surprises, and technical discoveries, but perhaps its biggest lesson was simple. Sometimes the difference between failure and success begins with asking one more question before giving up.